We had our spoiler stream for Tarkir Dragon Storm today, and we have a lot to talk about. There's specifically one colorless planeswalker that might be coming onto the scene hot here, but there's a lot of other things to discuss as well. We already know some of the exciting things like a Mox coming down the line. We got a potential collected company analog revealed yesterday, and a lot of cool things just kind of spoiled in the stream itself. I won't be discussing all of it. Some of your favorite content creators probably will. You probably will be exploring past this video on Reddit and on Twitter and everything, so you'll get everything there. I wanted to take my quick hits on constructed specific ones, and I think maybe there's a lot of concerns around standard and specific synergies with Up the Beanstalk, but there's still some exciting things when it comes to modern. So let's hop right into it with the very first card, and that's going to be Ugin, Eye of the Storm. This one got everyone in a tussle. Let me zoom in a little bit here. 7 colorless mana. Just read this damn card here. Let me just close this little ad. 7 colorless mana. Ugin's Eye of the Storm comes in with 7 loyalty. When you cast this spell, so shout out to counter spells. When you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Just 7 mana, you just get an exile. Okay, not bad. EDH card, I guess, in colorless decks, but so far 7 mana. We all know about a couple of Urza lands that can get us to 7 pretty easily. 1, 2, 7. Okay, then whenever you cast a colorless spell, no limitation, by the way, just cast a colorless spell. Mox Opal, I don't know anything, Mishra's Bauble, exile up to 1 targeted permanent that's 1 or more colors. Folks, we're cooking. We're cooking here. It's all cast triggers. It's cast triggers. It doesn't matter. For example, if you had this in front of a Chalice, right? The Chalice will counter. Let's say a Chalice that is out on 0. You could cast Mishra's Bauble into this, and it will still, it won't hit the Mishra's Bauble. It won't hit the Chalice. That's fine. That's colorless. I'm saying you can still start killing things with that. It's cast triggers. That's the key to something like this. Yes, your 0 cost, Chalice on 0, your 0 cost get countered, but the trigger on this will not, because it'll trigger on that colorless 0 cost just being cast. So let's say it hits the battlefield. +2, so you've already exiled a monocolor or multicolored card. Already, great. +2, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Okay, so it's not like the bolt that we get out of the 8 cost Ugin, but you still gain 3 life and draw a card. Cool, a little bit of anti-aggro, you get a removal, and then you can plus and gain a little bit of life in cards. Or you could 0 and get 3 colorless mana that you can then use to cast more colorless spells and re-trigger the effects on this card. This Planeswalker got so much text. Ugin out here for something. Ugin, Eye of the Storm means business. What is Ugin doing? Ugin out here killing things. Yo, -7, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them and shuffle them. So you could just exile, let's say you're playing Tron, forget your green card, you could exile everything else. Think about Eldrazi Tron, right? Think about the Eldrazi, ramp Eldrazi shell right now. You just get everything colorless, you exile them. Until the end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana. You just cast your whole deck. So notably, it's not lands, because it says cast, it doesn't say play. So you're not getting your lands, but you just get to, the ultimate's kind of crazy. The ultimate is legitimately game winning. You just get to cast your whole deck. You just get to cast your whole deck. It's just that good. This card is nuts. Whether or not this breaks Tron wide open, who the hell knows? People are still going to try and force it in Tron. The minute the set releases, people are queuing up Tron with this. The fact that you can get this out then pay 0. It's balanced in the sense that you're not immediately playing like a Karn the Great Creator, but you could play some of the tutor targets for it. Maybe you played it earlier or something like that. You could play a Trinisphere, a Torpor Orb. You don't want Torpor. I'm sorry, Trinisphere. I'm thinking of just regular prison targets with like Karn the Great Creator. Ensnaring Bridge, just things that usually come out of a card wish board, you can usually get out. If you're playing in the ramp shell, you could play out your colorless mana rocks with that 0 and then exile something. Imagine just like paying, so 0, 7, exile something on cast. Great, this resolves. Then use 0, you get 3 colorless mana, use 2 of that, get a ramp, like a ramp artifact, just mana, like whatever, pay 2, get your little 2 mana ramp card. Exile another colored permanent, then you still have 2 mana, cast another ramp mana rock, exile something else. Come on. Yo, the Rand Eldrazi player is going crazy with this one. Even if it's not Tron, this card has potential. This card has potential. Glaring Flesh Raker triggers this damn thing, because that's 3. There has to be more cards that I'm not thinking of that this card triggers. This card's kind of cool. I think there's gonna be a lot of excitement around it. Whether or not it actually breaks things, who knows? But people will be trying it. There's a lot to love about it. Let me know if there's any specific interaction that I'm missing down below. Now let's think of a card like United Battlefront. This one I just got spoiled yesterday, so it wasn't with this stream today, but it's essentially collected company sorcery speed, to be fair, for non-creature non-land permanent. So white and 3 sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 non-creature non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. And the big synergy that everyone's talking about this with is something like Teferi Time Raveler. So not only can you pay this for 4 and get out a Teferi Time Raveler, but if you already had a Teferi out on turn 3, then and you're able to protect it, then you can, you know, just plus, and you can just play things at instant speed. You could just play this at instant speed. So that's the beauty of it. And then people are talking about things like Teferi, you play this, get Teferi Time Raveler, and you get Narset Parter Veils. Then Narset -5s gets your next United Battlefront, and you just keep going. Like, I don't know, like there's stuff and things that people are talking about. Like, is this going to be in the Narset Wheels deck? The mono blue, like Narset Trap Your Hand type of deck, as a way to get out certain permanents. Maybe. What's funny about this card is that it also, you think of a world with Underworld Breach combo in Modern, it gets the Breach and it gets the Milling Artifact. It gets so much in that deck. You just look at the top 5 and generally you can get like most things. To be fair, it's non-creatures. You're not getting like Emery or anything like that, but you get a lot out of those decks. So I think there is a home for this. People just don't know where yet. Not allowing you to get creatures is a big downside for it. Honestly, the biggest downside probably is just the fact that it's a sorcery, but I think it's probably balanced in that way. But it's still something to look at. People will be trying this. It's not a analog. It's not like a horizontal, a functional reprint, I should say. It's something completely different. But again, I think the big reason big thing holding it back is playability. It's just that it's sorcery, but it can get Teferi and works with Teferi, or 3 Fairy, I should say. So it's something to consider on that front. Dirgir Island Dragon specifically, I want to mention this just because of a soft analog to a mechanic we've already had. So this isn't like the storybook mechanic that we get from the Wilds of Eldraine or Eldraine set in general. This is slightly different. So this is an Omen. You can pay 2 and cast the Omen side of it. You can tap up to 1 target creature and draw a card, but then if it's an Omen, you then shuffle this card back into its owner's library. So that's kind of the dumb thing, right? So the storybook side of it was absolutely insane. This is the non-fire design version of storybook. The storybook version was just like, here's a cheaper version of the card. Let me cast its front side, generally speaking. Let me cast its front side. It's now in exile and functionally acts as like a 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever card in my hand, because now it's just there. I could cast it later down the line. And then later down the line, when it's empty, it might have flash or something like that. I can just cast it later as a free quote unquote card that I already got value from initially. This card, a lot worse. This mechanic in general, a lot worse. The fact that it shuffles back in. I don't know, maybe there's situations where like, yeah, you top deck it as a creature and then you want to play it as a creature. That's cool. On the front side, like I mean, it takes some of the good elements of storybook where it's like, yeah, it's usually a cheaper cost on the front side, so it helps smooth out your hands and removes the amount of non-games. Like, oh yeah, I don't have to think of about this like a 6-cost creature. I could think of this like a 2-cost converted like instant, and then, you know, it's a tap draw. So it's 2 cards in 1. It has that value, but shuffling back in is significantly worse. But it is a mechanic that's unlike storybooks returning in this set. Rakshasa bargain, I want to bring up specifically for 2 reasons. First of all, this is kind of like a cool stock up analog. Stock up has been making a lot of waves recently, not only in standard but in commander as well, being blue and 2 for a real like functionally better divination. It allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and pick any 2, put into your hand, the rest at the bottom of your library. Whereas Rakshas's bargain says look at the top 4, put any 2 from among them into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. So this is an analog, but it puts those cards in your graveyard, so you already have some delirium feeding your graveyard shenanigans with this. It is also instant speed, stock up being sorcery. Specifically, if you're playing this in Commander, you have that restriction of now you need to be in Sultai or 4-color, 5-color to be playing something like this. But I also wanted to bring this up because this, along with some other cards, are likely probably going to be that over the edge final thing that that the standard format needs to ban up the beanstalk. Because if you notice, you can either pay 3, so color, or 6, 2/2/2, which means the converted mana cost of this card is actually 6, which means if you pay this for its 3 side, it actually triggers up the beanstalk. So you could pay beanstalk on 2, play bargain and instant speed on 3, pay 3, grab essentially 3 cards because you get the trigger off the beanstalk in beanstalk's colors, by the way, because you're paying green for it, and then continue down the line there. So I don't know. I think cards like this, it probably just means beanstalk is gone in standard. I just wanted to bring that up because, again, it is that analog to stock up. It's kind of interesting because it hits your graveyard. Maybe there's a world where it is playable for that. It is 3 mana for that, so I don't know if it's modern playable, but more notably, it will probably get up the beanstalk banned in modern, in standard, I should say. Already gone in modern thanks to Modern Horizons 2 Elementals, but regardless, the alternate typing costs and the way converted mana cost ruling works, this is quite the card. This is quite the card. Next up, Corroding Dragonstorm. I want to bring up specifically for 2 reasons. So 1 for standard, 1 for modern, softly so for modern, but specifically in standard. So this is black and 1 enchantment. When this enchantment enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Surveil 2, a lot of value coming out of this for 2 mana. And then when a dragon you control enters, this return this enchantment to its owner's hand. So it's a recurable way to get damage across, gain a little bit of advantage, feed the graveyard a little bit. Probably will be a pretty solid deck in limited if you're able to get some cheap dragons across. Notably in standard, if you hit, this town, I believe the card is this town and big enough for the 2, it's blue and 4, and then it costs 3 less, so it's 2 converted mana cost if you target a permanent you control. The bounce deck, the fairy deck, whatever, is probably going to be abusing this because it's literally in its colors. 4 of these is just like, imagine you're just bouncing this over and over and over and over again with this town ain't big enough for the 2 of us. Oh my lord, I don't think, like, people are not going to be happy with that. When it comes to modern, specifically, it's always like you're always looking at shapeshifters, and I think one card that's always going to be on people's mind is on a Modern Horizons 3. We have that 1-drop automaton that is a shapeshifter. So people are talking about that as a meme for like Mox Jasper being a dragon. Corroding Dragonstorm could be a part of that. I'm not sure if it's really going to be making a dragon deck, but when it comes to something like Mox Jasper, it's going to be a Mox that a lot of people are going to try and force. It could ultimately just end up being a bad Mox. It'll just end up being like good for, standard dragon decks or standard, I should say Commander dragon decks. But if there is something, this is probably a good way to enable that, just as a repeated way to cast something and deal a bunch of damage and create a 4-point life swing that way. But again, probably more so relevant for the standard environment of things. Oh, what did I just click? Close that. Sorry, folks. Sorry about that. Let's go to the next one. I have only 2 more cards. Bear with me here. Everything is clicking. All right. Sunset Strikemaster I want to bring up because specifically on stream, they talked about something that I think actually fundamentally changes the name of the game when it comes to red mana dork. So straight up, this is a red mana dork. It's 2 mana, tap it, add red. Inherently, it's not broken. It's not doing anything absolutely busted. It pay 3, red and 2, sacrifice this creature, tap. It deals 6 damage to target creature flying. Cool, right? So it can snipe down a dragon, I guess. But the key to this is that on stream, they said moving forward, they want to introduce mana rocks as a, or not even mana rocks, like just mana creatures, like Llanowar Elf style effects and slower kind of long game tools for red moving forward. And a lot of people might see that as like a color pie break. The more historic one that always seems to be brought up at least once a year is the fact that black now has enchantment removal, direct enchantment removal. And so Sunset Striker feels like another move in that direction. I think this one's fine. Red mana creatures, cool. Like, I'm not sure if like the current iteration of red, like holistically in Magic really supports something like this. But of course, when it comes to Commander, when it comes to even standard and slower mid-range style strategy, something like this could be powerful. Again, this card specifically isn't inherently broken, but it does represent a philosophy shift that they did specifically bring up in the stream that I think is relevant to bring up in general. The last card I wanted to bring up is Craterhoof Behemoth. That's right. This is not part of the commander decks. This is Craterhoof Behemoth in standard, which means it's going to be more accessible. It's going to be a little bit cheaper. We're just going to have access to something like this. So if we take a look at this, I mean, if we take a look at Skyfall, Craterhoof Behemoth, right? Card like this, obviously already modern, legal, and everything. It's been around for a minute, right? But we've largely like only had like meme arts. Like, what is this secret layer? Oh my god, y'all can't even see it. Let me hide my camera. But look at this. What is this secret layer art? You know what I mean? It's just like a start of like this Craterhoof Behemoth. It's cool that like, I mean, just based on this art, like we got a secret layer, we got a commander reprint, but like this is now going to be standard legal. So it's great in terms of like accessibility. If this is a commander card that you're looking for, if you're looking to meme out with this in arena or heck, even timeless or something like that, you now have another accessible way to get it. Notably, this is I think it's a mythic. Yeah, it is a mythic. So it's not going to be rare. They're going to be taking your mythic I can't even speak. They're going to be taking your mythic wild cards from you, folks. I feel like sometimes I just think, then speak, the dummy mentality. Anyway, Craterhoof Behemoth, very, very cool new art. I just like the fact that we're getting some callbacks. All in all, one of the things they wanted to focus on, and they mentioned on stream, is that they wanted to just make ample callbacks. This is the first time we're coming back to Tarkir, and it's not one of those sets like Eldraine we visited once already, but it's not like Innistrad, it's not like Ravnica, one of those sets where it feels like we almost visit like every year, every other year. The first time they're returning to Tarkir, they're making a lot of callbacks, a lot of old head kind of stuff, and a lot of +1/+1 mechanics. And there's also a big focus on casting a second spell. So a flurry is what they call it. Flurry is like the kind of sub keyword for it, where if you cast your second spell, some effect triggers. So if that's something that you're interested in, this set is definitely for you. But in general, I like the idea of calling back, maybe not specifically with Craterhoof Behemoth, but they're calling back to a lot of dragons, and they're calling back to just a lot of old art and the clans and all that stuff, the cons, I should say, in general. One card that I specifically didn't want to bring up here, I don't even know why I'm mentioning here, but it's like it's like Omniscience for dragons. It's like 8 mana, it's red, and 6, and dragon spells you cost are free. Okay, I mean, like, yo, commander players look, oh, this is busted. I mean, if you cast something for 8 mana, it better be busted. It better be freaking busted. And honestly, at that mana, just cast Omniscience. I don't know. I guess if you're color locked out or something. But it's Omniscience specifically for dragons. I guess I could have brought it up here. Maybe I should have. I don't know. Like, okay, the dragon players are kind of lit about it. Yes, auto include, all that stuff. Y'all are eating well. Y'all are gonna get a lot of dragons out of this set. I don't have a dragon deck. I think dragons are cool. Not for me, so that's fine. But that's, I think, where I'm going to end up the video here. Let me know what you think about the spoilers so far. What have you seen on Twitter, Reddit? Have you watched this stream? What have you caught from the set that's really cool? Was there any common that I missed? I don't think so. There's like this one common that technically has like affinity for creatures, and then it would cost like 1 white at its lowest cost, and then it enters as a 4/3 and draws a card. Maybe that's pauper playable, I'm not sure, but there's that. I didn't really catch any other common that really like kind of piqued my interest. I'm like, oh, that might be cool. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know what your excitement level is for Tarkir Dragon Storm and just the first return to one of Magic's most beloved sets.